my name is Christine Rayburn, and I am and I'm a member of the Olympia Surfrider Chapter Executive Committee, and I work on plastics with restaurants and with the community. And my favorite seafood is the crab cakes from Olympia Seafood Company. Those are the yummiest crab cakes I've ever had, and I've had them everywhere that I've ever been able to get crab cakes, so I know that they are the best, in my opinion.
Duly noted.
And that's my ocean fact.
Do you know what kind of crab goes into these crab cakes?
Yeah, I think they're Dungeness.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
That would explain why they're awesome. All right, next up we have, let's see if Glenn, can you unmute yourself? Welcome. Oh, you had it. All right.
There we go.
Hi.
And then, hi, I'm Glenn Cole. I'm going to try to start the video, see if you guys can see me.
We can.
There you go.
Success.
I'm a new member. I just joined the Surfrider Foundation and the Olympia chapter.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. My favorite seafood is probably lobster.
Which kinds?
Gosh. Finey lobster.
Good choice.
Yeah. I love to surf. I love the ocean. Finally getting an opportunity to give back and hopefully participate and help everybody. Fun ocean fact. Hopefully I won't make everybody jealous, but I'm going to Costa Rica next week for a surf trip. There you go.
Good for you. It's okay for us.
Yeah.
We can live vicariously. Just post it to our social media at Oli Surfrider so we can live vicariously.
All right.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. Let's see here. Who's next? We're going to go with Michael.
Hi, my name is Mike, obviously. I am not a normal Olympia chapter person. I've normally gone to the South Sound chapter. I apologize for the reverb. We've got a couple different devices going.
Okay.
So my favorite seafood would be scallops, preferably raw. And my sea fact, I'll go with another personal one and say that I helped outplant about 6,000 native oysters last week.
Good for you. Way to give back. Well, welcome and thanks for coming. All right, next on my list is Jill.
Leah. Hi, I'm Jill Williams, and I am with the Oli Surfrider EC and currently in the vice chair position. And let's see the questions. My favorite seafood would be kelp because I'm a vegetarian. And an ocean fact. That one caught me off guard. I don't know. I'm gonna have to come back to that one.
It's optional. It's optional. If you have one to share, we welcome
opt out on that one.
It's okay.
So, do I pick the next person or Liz, are you going on?
I'm going through just to.
Okay.
I'm going after Joe next. So we're sharing your name, your affiliation with Surfrider, your favorite seafood, and if you have one, a fun ocean fact that you'd like to share.
Okay. My name is Joe. I'm currently the Olympia Surfrider chair, and favorite seafood would be. Does salmon count? It's kind of
Absolutely.
But I got to go with that.
Spends its life in the ocean. Most of its life in the ocean.
Yeah, I'll go with that. And I can't think of a fun fact off the top of my head right now.
It's okay.
I'll let you know if I do.
Come up, just throw it out in the middle. Just interrupt Ken, just whenever. I want these ocean facts.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Leah, you're up.
Hey everyone, my name's Leah. I'm the secretary for the Olympia chapter. My favorite ocean seafood, not necessarily for eating, just because I love them so much, are chum salmon. I have cats named after chum salmon. I just think that they're very beautiful and under-recognized species. I'm doing some education right now for kids, trying to get them to picture the different sizes of Pacific salmon. And so my fun ocean fact is that the average Chinook is also about the same length and size of your average Welsh Corgi.
That's a great fact.
Wow.
I love it. Thank you for that. We'll send that out in the notes afterwards. All right, who's next? We have Riley and Karen. Welcome.
Oh, we're here. We're lurking.
I love it.
My favorite seafood is scallops. I have no ocean fact to pass on.
My favorite is probably the Dungeness crab, and I don't really have a true fact, but I truly have to say that we've so enjoyed reading all of the Surfrider blogs and emails that come in, and you, Liz, and Gus keep us up with a lot of good facts.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Oh, and how are you affiliated with Surfrider? How long have you been with us?
We're just out here lurking as we're kind of friends, you might say, members or friends, and we've come out to the beach to do a cleanup. We've come down to pick up cigarette butts. We do that on our own too, just while we're walking and stuff. So that's how we're affiliated.
That is great to hear. We love hearing that. All right, I think we just lost somebody, but I think we got everybody except for Ken, and we'll see whoever just dropped off if they come back, hopefully. But Ken, you're up, the man of the hour. Oh, you're on mute.
There you go. How's that? My name is Ken Campbell. I've been affiliated with Surfrider for about 11 years or so, all of it with the South Sound chapter. And I've served on the EC at several different times in several different capacities. As of right now, I'm blessedly not in any of those capacities. So we'll see how long that lasts. But most of you know that feeling. I would say that my favorite seafood. I would say that my favorite seafood is definitely salmon. I could eat that 3 meals a day, pretty much. And I don't know if it's really an ocean fact, but lightning strikes the Earth's surface 24,000 times a day, and most of that is over ocean. So, that's what I got.
Pretty cool. That's why I should always not go out on the water in a lightning
Shocking.
Oh. And I guess I'll go last until anybody else jumps on the call, but I am Liz Scottman. I'm the Washington Regional Manager for Surfrider. I'm one of 2 staff here. My partner, Gus Gates, is the policy manager, but he's in another Surfrider meeting right now. So we had to divide and conquer. And let's see here. My favorite seafood is wahoo, which is more of a pelagic, closer to the equator type tropical, subtropical species. And they're just badass predators. They're super fast and they just like roam around the open ocean.
That is good.
Yeah.
I had a college roommate who had a girlfriend from Samoa, and her family used to send wahoo in a can, like tuna, like canned wahoo.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good. It was amazing.
It's my favorite fish in the sea for sure. Although salmon holds its own as a transplant to the Northwest. I have to keep my roots loyal to the South and the Caribbean. Yeah. But and my fun ocean fact, I'm full of them. So stay tuned for more newsletters that will have more of those. I had a fun ocean fact. So I've been doing a lot of research on seabed mining, which is something we're going to try to prevent from happening in our state waters. So stay tuned for more on that. But apparently the deep sea ecosystem, the black corals that live down there can live thousands of years. We think they're the oldest living species on Earth, which is pretty cool.
Black corals.
Black corals. So they're like non-photosynthetic corals that live in the deep dark ocean. So very cool. We've explored 0.0001% of the deep sea. So there's a lot out there we don't know. Exciting. All right. So thank you guys all for showing up. And we have a few quick housekeeping items that we can kind of give you some short updates on what we've been up to and what we plan to keep doing this year. So I will go first. I don't remember if we mentioned this last time, but the Blue Water Task Force program has wound to a close for this season. We normally sample once a week for bacterial contamination off of Priest Point Park. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Joe, Leah, and Jill for all of their hard work volunteering and waking up and going to the beach at odd hours to collect water samples and drop them off at the lab. And I'm happy to report that aside from 1 or 2 high samples, our waters were pretty bacteria free and fairly safe on the spectrum, at least for potential fecal contamination. I can't promise what else may or may not be lurking in the waters of Butt Inlet, but so that I just want to thank you guys for all your efforts throughout the summer, and yeah, looking forward to another summer next year of some water quality sampling. And then I don't know if Christine, if you had any OFR updates you wanted to throw out there, beyond just support your local OFRs. A lot of them are doing curbside pickup and still plugging away and doing what they can in these crazy times. So if you can, try to support your local community and your local restaurants. ICC, so Surfrider, we normally have our International Coastal Cleanup Day on the 3rd weekend in September, which just happened, and I'll let Jill talk about it more, but Surfrider, to be a little bit more responsible and not send people to the beaches all on the same day, to be cognizant of volunteer safety during the pandemic, we just made September International Coastal Cleanup Month. So there's been a lot of cool efforts, a lot of solo cleanups like Riley and Karen were saying that they've been participating in. So if you haven't jumped on that train, it's a good one, check it out. But yeah, I'll let Jill kind of touch on her amazing work, because she's basically single-handedly gone out to the coast and led our cleanups and represented Surfrider all month, basically out in Westport.
Thank you. So we did the cleanup for July 5th, which was a huge success. And that was the one that was just post 4th of July that was mostly just getting fireworks up off the beach. And we ended up filling 2 full dumpsters that day. It's pretty incredible, just truckloads and truckloads of fireworks, which was awesome. And then the most recent one we did on International Cleanup Day last week, 2 weekends ago. We had really great turnout. We were at the Twin Harbors State Park, and we had a great turnout of volunteers to come clean up. And the really good news was there wasn't a lot of trash on the beach. Either good news that there's no trash, or not so good news that it's all swiped out into the ocean. But a lot of people turned out and were ready to help clean up. And fortunately, there wasn't a ton to clean up, but it goes to show that the Twin Harbors area of Westport is nice and clean and ready for people to enjoy. So that's what I got.
Yeah. I do want to say that we try, obviously we're limited in capacity a lot of times, but we do try to collect data on the debris that we pick up, and it all gets entered into our beach cleanup database, and we use that to help promote plastic pollution policies, like our recent the bag ban that we recently passed that should go into effect January. Pandemic situation pending, might delay it. But so yeah, so if you do cleanups, we recently, very, very recently, like this past week, I believe, opened up our beach cleanup database to have individuals enter their data. So you can go to our national website, or we'll also send it out in the next newsletter. So if you are interested in doing your own solo cleanups and want to add to the science behind our policy legislation efforts, I recommend you check it out. And finally, I think Jill, you're also on the plate for this one, but next month's chapter meeting.
So next month's chapter meeting, we are doing Oyster Fest. And so we'll be talking all about oysters and reseeding oysters. We'll have Dan Mazier, who lives in Olympia, and he runs an oyster seeding planting club. And it seems about every year they do a different reseeding program, and they've planted over 150,000 oysters around Bud Inlet and the surrounding areas in Olympia. So he will be on to talk about his program, what he does. He also I believe he sells seeds out to people that have their own property that want to seed just out front on their own time outside of the program as well. So it's a really cool program locally in Olympia. And then we also have Michael Burns, who's a professor of marine biology at PLU, and he's going to talk to us about his work with the Harbor Wild Watch in Gig Harbor, where right now they're performing experimental oyster restorations at Penrose Point on the Key Peninsula. So that meeting will be October 28th at 7 p.m. and we'll learn all about reseeding oysters.
I think that's, oh no, we also have our film screening. Jill, do you want to talk about the film screening? It's October 22nd. We, the Olympia and Seattle chapters are partnering to launch a documentary series throughout the fall and early winter. So about once a month or so, roughly, we'll be trying to screen a documentary film, and the first on the plate is October 22nd. We're gonna view My Octopus Teacher, which is a really cool film about a man that basically befriends and develops this relationship with an octopus and like snorkels with it every day for like a whole year. And so it's a really beautiful story about like just connecting to nature and just the miracle of like what goes on in the ocean that we know so little about. So check it out on our social media. We haven't posted anything yet because we're still waiting to finalize a few last details, but keep an eye out for those screenings, and we will have expert panelists for little brief Q&As after the screenings. So if you have questions, hopefully we can provide some answers from local experts and non-local experts. So I don't know if you had anything else to add on that. Right on. Michael, did you say you did some oyster seeding, and is that the same thing that Jill was talking about?
Yes, so that is exactly what Jill was talking about.
Sweet. So you're going to be our expert too? Do you want to join the panel?
Maybe.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming, and I'll shut up and let Ken Campbell, who is the lead of the Ikkatsu Project, kind of go about all of the amazing work he's been doing for however many years, over a decade. So take it away, Ken.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's cool to come virtually back to Olympia again. I'd rather be at Three Magnets, but this is pretty good too. It's what we got. So I have got a presentation just kind of about the Ikkatsu Project, kind of some background, and then talking about the programs that are running now and they're looking ahead till next year. So that's kind of where we'll go. At any time during, I'm going to share my screen here. If all that works out, I'll believe it when I see it, but I believe it. And if you got any questions or anything, please interrupt anytime. I won't be able to see you, I don't think. Or maybe I will. I don't know. I'll play with it a little bit, but I don't want to play with it too much because you know what happens. So I'll go ahead and share the screen with you. But if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, please feel free to jump in because I may or may not be able to see you. So let me know if this works. Oh, yeah, maybe. And oh, I can see you. Can you hear me and see me? Well, you're all muted. Okay.
Yes, we can hear and see you. Success.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see how this works then. So the Ikkatsu Project. Oh, it won't let me advance like that. How do I advance it? That's not it either. Oh, here we go. Hang on. Discovering. There you go. All right. So the Ikkatsu Project. First of all, the name Ikkatsu it comes from a Japanese term. It's part of a longer term, but it means basically united as one or together. And in the context of when the waitress comes to your table at the end of the meal and says, are these separate checks or will you all be paying together? We will all be paying together is kind of the concept of where that came from. And I use Japanese terminology there just because it kind of came about after the tsunami in 2011, and late that year, stuff started washing up on our beaches. That kind of piqued my curiosity, and a couple other guys that I was involved with at the time, mostly kayaking was what I was doing on the coast at that time. But in 2012, well, our first programs were all expedition based. Alaska, Washington coast, Alaska again, and then several other things here in Washington. And then it kind of moved into being really focused on the Salish Sea and the Washington coast. Just based on this, it's where we live, it's where we recreate, and it's what we know best. We do things up in Alaska as well. That a little bit later. Oh yeah, here we go. Kind of the background. So it started in January 2012. So yeah, in the aftermath of the tsunami, it was just amazing. It was amazing. Still, we're just with 5 million tons of the sea just in an instant, and kind of had a pattern. And this is the pattern of how it was distributed across the ocean. This is probably. Oh, my internet connection is unstable. This is going to be good. The pattern probably late 2011. And then 2012, the Roadless Coast expedition went from Nia Bay down to La Push.
You finally froze, Ken. It was working. No, it's not. Maybe I'm frozen. Oh, and we lost him. Classic. Is everybody else, like, can they hear me? Everybody else's connection is good? All right, we'll wait and see if he pops back up.
I can hear you.
Oh, there he is. Cool.
He's back.
Yeah, I'm gonna, just a second here, I'm gonna join.
Sometimes
you guys say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still kind of frozen.
Sometimes
if you
hear me?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
So
well, yeah. Time I go to the shear,
okay.
Let's do Plan B.
Plan B.
Plan B.
Coming
Plan
up.
B.
Coming right up.
Right,
Now I'm going to share my screen.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And then you'll have to have your designated beep noise.
Nice work. Yeah, you can just
There we go.
code word.
Okay.
Okay, we got it. All right, can you guys see the slideshow?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, seeing it. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
Yep. So that's the debris washing out from the.
We lost him again. Oh, the joys of a virtual world.
Really?
Ken, do you think you could, do you think if you cut your video, would that help? Because sometimes the video creates a lag that if you just turn your video off, maybe your audio would work?
Oh, video.
I wonder if he could also maybe call in with his phone to the Zoom number.
That's the next option.
So a co-host. Hello.
Yep. It just, I don't know if you're still the co-host or not. Let me stop my share real. Well, there we go. Okay, hold on. Oh, and he's gone. Standing by. Thank you all for your patience. Does anybody want to share a story of the last time they were in an actual meeting. Remember when we used to hate going to meetings at work? And now we're like, you know, it'd be great if we had a meeting that we could go to.
Yep.
Anybody think of a fun ocean fact?
I haven't. I can look one up. Who's been in a tsunami?
That's a good. Yeah, has anybody ever experienced a tsunami?
Has anyone ever seen the tsunami capsules that they have on the Oregon coast in some businesses?
No.
There's one in Cannon Beach, like a legit tsunami survival pod.
I think I've seen one in the Keys when I used to live in the Florida Keys. They had like
it's probably the same idea. Yeah,
and I was
same
like,
idea is
seems
like a modern lifeboat is almost more like a submersible than really a an open hull boat. But it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's designed to survive that kind of stuff, like just crushing debris.
Wow.
It's basically just like a super reinforced capsule thing with just a couple portholes. And that's pretty much it.
As someone with mild claustrophobia, that sounds like a nightmare to me.
Oh yeah. You would not be right side up for a while, I'm sure.
All right, Ken, are you with us?
I am.
All right.
Am I in control again?
You are co-host. I'm still sharing my screen. So do you want to just carry on?
Okay, yeah, you can just do, let's just go beep. Okay.
All right, beep, next.
Yep. So this is the pattern, probably late 2011. Just as the larger pieces of debris, the things that floated a bit higher that got assisted by the current and the wind got here first. So like those big black buoys that you didn't used to see that much, but now you see all the time, that's when those started to show up. So that was the first stuff kind of washed ashore here in December of 2011. And our trip was in April of 2012. So I think you can go ahead. Yeah, so that was the 2012 Roadless Coast Expedition. We were going to go and just kind of, the depth of my scientific inquiry at this point was I just wanted to go find tsunami debris. That was pretty much it. Hey, maybe we can find tsunami debris. Very, very quickly, it became obvious that although there might be a fair bit of tsunami debris, there was just a lot of debris in general. Of course, I'd seen it before, but until you actually get down and collect it and count it and itemize it, once you do that, you can't not see it ever again, which is kind of amazing to me. But that was when it all started. So we did a lot of surveys of beaches that had not been surveyed before, because in 2012, a lot of the questions was, what's coming ashore? We want to know what is coming ashore. That's changed a lot. We did find some tsunami debris. This is a ball from a little town that was really heavily hit by the tsunami, and this was from a soccer club, Otsuchi Soccer Club. And the kanji writing is upside down. I've been told that a few times, but I didn't know it at the time. But that was returned, actually. That ball was taken back. That was one of the few things that we found that had an address on it or a name that could be identified. So that was kind of cool. Next. Yeah, just the general debris. This is maybe 20 minutes on a little beach on Tatoosh Island. This is out on Tatoosh. We had permission to go out there and do a survey out there. So that was pretty cool. But this is just from literally a 25-foot beach and about a 20 minutes worth of cleaning. So the stuff we all know about, but that's what it looks like when you line it up. Next. So you all know this, but these are the three things that I came away with that first year. And not necessarily that I didn't know them, but I hadn't given them much thought before. And honestly, since then, I think about them all the time. So it's one of those things that, there's a lot of other facts about plastic, but these are the three that kind of stuck with me from the very beginning. Next. The next year, we one of the partners and I that went on that first trip went up to Augustine Island, which is kind of the tip. If you think about Cook Inlet, if you know Alaska at all, Cook Inlet's about 400 miles long from the open ocean, the Gulf of Alaska. It goes down in, and it pretty much ends more or less at Anchorage. So at Anchorage at one end and 400 miles further up is the mouth of Cook Inlet. This is kind of close to the mouth of Cook Inlet. It's the most active volcano in Alaska, for what that's worth. It's always steaming. And the ground, as you go up a little bit higher, the ground gets pretty warm. So it's kind of an interesting place for that reason. But it's also a place where, Alaska's got, I don't know, 10,000 miles of coastline or some ridiculous number. And all of it has been surveyed by air. Very, very little of it has actually been looked at. Very, very few of the beaches have been walked, and some of them not for 100 years, perhaps. And we definitely came on some of the beaches like that. But we went out to Augustine Island. You can go ahead and forward this a little bit. More beach debris out there, more tsunami debris out there as well. But just again, hit with the idea that it's on every beach on the planet. It's just when you can know that and you can say that, but when you actually go to a lot of the beaches that are pretty far flung and actually see that it's true, it does definitely hit home. Go ahead. Some of the other ridiculous things I've done just to kind of do things closer to home was this particular craft I'm sitting on was a boat that it was called the Hiasiem, which is just me telling the tale in the local Chinook language. And basically just telling this tale about plastic. One of the things I noticed was by this time I'd started to do a lot of presentations. We'd made a couple films and we'd been showing those and things like that. And people don't want to get preached to about plastic. Like if they're sucking on a plastic water bottle, they don't really want you to come up and tell them why they shouldn't be enjoying their bottle of water. But I found the best way to open the conversation is if you build a boat like this, you don't have to start any conversations, right? If people just come up to you and they will start the conversation, it's kind of fun in that respect because you don't really feel like you're invading anybody to tell them why you're doing what you're doing. They'll ask you why you're doing it. So that was a real eye-opener for me. So I went from Olympia to Bellingham on this boat, and along the way and I could paddle it standing up, kneeling, or sitting down. It was kind of one of those it was a very, very stable craft. It was kind of like paddling a section of dock, actually, if you want to know the truth. But it was, I did along the way, I did slideshows. I did a few beach cleanups coordinated with Surfrider chapters along the way, and also just groups, one tribal group and different, so different stuff along the way to kind of get people involved, and it was a pretty fun trip. That was done in 2014. I actually did a lot of the journal from that, and a lot of the background work from that became my thesis for my master's. So that is still a lovely book and DVD gift set if any of you are interested. Then the next boat. So this was actually a picture of a big chunk of foam. This is foam dock. For those of you who don't know, this is the stuff that's under. They don't use it much anymore, but there's still a ton of it out there. And these are sections of dock. So I had a bunch of these from living on a beach. I'd been collecting them. So I decided, well, you can make a boat out of this. So this was kind of go ahead. This kind of took shape over time in my garage and carved into a rough shape of a boat there. And paddled that in the first 70-48 race, which was from Tacoma to Port Townsend. And that would have been 2018, I think. So yeah, it was just basically it's a big chunk of foam that I glued and stuck together, and it did okay. I didn't finish the race. I made it to Bainbridge Island, so about 42 or 43 miles. But I'm literally paddling a piece of garbage. So I mean, I feel that I can at least claim that. So, but yeah, it was pretty fun. I did it the next year in a regular boat and did all right. So this is I just kind of want to throw some of the stuff we do that doesn't seem intuitive at first, but I got involved with the Puyallup Watershed Institute in 2014 or 15, somewhere back in there, and involved in the environmental education community of interest with that. So one of the questions that I like to put to kids when working with them is, where does the ocean start? And get them to think about how things are connected. It's definitely an elementary student. You do it with kids all the way up to high school, but you just do it in different ways. And some of the answers you get with elementary students are my favorites, where the ocean starts, because it starts at the beach. And then we talk about it a little bit more, and they say, well, maybe how does the water get to the ocean? It's like, and we talk about, depending on the grade level, it's a pretty entertaining conversation, especially like kindergartners and first graders. But the Puyallup River watershed is really huge, because if those of you that don't know, the Puyallup is kind of the river that the Carbon River empties into, and also the White River, which is, if you look at the the kind of the eastern portion of the river coming up to the east of Mount Rainier. It flows east to start with, and it goes all the way around. It used to run into the Green River, but then there was a big flood back in the early 1900s, changed the direction of the river, and the river actually started running into the Puyallup. So it's the Mud Mountain Dam was built to make that a permanent situation. So it's a very strange looking watershed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But one of the things that we did on the Puyallup River was we go all the way up to the glacier and basically do microplastic sampling from the glacier all the way down to salt water. So it's about 50 miles of river. It was a biking, climbing, canoeing trip for the most part. So this is about 100 meters down from the glacier. This is, excuse me, a little further down here, almost to Ording here at this point. So it's quite a bit further down the river. Great trip. It was the first time that we've been collecting. At this point, this is 2015. So there wasn't a lot of microplastics work with freshwater at this point. There's been a lot of work with saltwater, and there was some with freshwater. It wasn't unique, but there hadn't been a lot. So definitely it was one of the first ones, certainly in Washington, where we went down and did freshwater sampling. And out of that grew a program. You can go ahead and forward. Out of that grew a program where I started working with middle schoolers in the school districts. There's 10 school districts in the Puyallup River watershed. And so did trips with middle schoolers, or did classes with middle schoolers at different points in the watershed, all the way from Carbonado all the way down to Tacoma. And we did sediment sampling, which is going to be really interesting this coming year because of those of you that know about the whole AstroTurf release in the Puyallup River last week. So that'll definitely be a part of what we do this summer. Digital microscopes have changed everything in terms of letting the kids do all the steps. It used to be when we had to have a microscope, we'd get one for a class, because I mean, they're fairly expensive, fairly hard to move around. Digital microscopes are great because you got all the kids are involved all the time looking at stuff, rather than just one kid looking through a microscope and the other kids just doing whatever kids do. So this is kind of cool. They're looking under ultraviolet light and looking at plastic fibers, mostly fibers that we find, sometimes fragments, but mostly fibers. It's pretty awesome. And the other thing about digital microscopes is the ability to take photographs of things is way better than it used to be, just trying to get your camera focused through the microscope and trying to do that kind of thing. That was a nightmare. So, go ahead. In fall of 2019, this is last fall, about this time, most of the classes that I do, especially middle school and elementary school, take place in the springtime rather than the fall. Typically, there's a lot more latitude for teachers in the spring for different programs. So it's a 4-day class at the middle school level. So I had one done in Sumner, middle school up there. And then did some workshops, Fossil Waterway Seaport, and did a few elementary school presentations last year, so before Christmas time. And yeah, this is it's kindergarten. Okay. Yeah, you feel huge. Anyway, that's aside. The other thing we do is Tacoma Shoreline Survey. This is something the Surfriders participated in heavily since we started, and super huge thanks if any of you have come out and done some of this. 2018, we had 78 volunteers. I can't see how much, I haven't memorized, 668 pounds of garbage. And then 2019, 138 volunteers, which was awesome. And we got over a half ton of garbage off the beach. So basically Tacoma has 13 miles of shoreline, the city of Tacoma, if you don't count the tide flats, the industrial part. So 13 miles of beaches. And we try to get everything on those 13 miles counted and picked up in one day. That's kind of the goal. Everything being a loosely defined word, because there's things people can't pick up. But I mean, for the most part, this is all in a one-day thing. So that was on the schedule again for April of this year. Go ahead.
Good question. Did that get delayed this year? Because I thought it was just supposed to happen. So is it going to happen next spring? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I'll get to that in just a second. I got a cool picture for that. Go ahead. Okay, this is just the tally sheets. This is actually not how we'll do it anymore. We've gone completely digital with that. So we just use the NOAA site, but I can go over that in just a second. But yeah, basically it's the same as any other online. The Surfrider has a really good one too. You were talking about that earlier. South QU cleanup, a lot of people, so this is our one thing that the big thing that we do that's not in Washington, not in the Salish Sea. QU Island is about, this lighthouse here is about as remote a spot as you can get to in Alaska, in Southeast Alaska. You're about 100 miles from Wrangell and about 100 miles west of Wrangell and 100 miles south of Sitka, if that gives you any kind of ballpark of where you are. Those islands in the background there are the Spanish Islands and Coronation Island. So this is the entrance right there at the bottom of the screen there where it says Cape Decision. That's the point right there where the lighthouse is. Looks like the point got moved out to sea. But that was, it's not that bad, guys. It's actually on the land. But so the Lighthouse Society, it's owned by the Cape Decision Lighthouse Society, and it has about a little over 300 acres of land that goes with it. So it's quite a bit of real estate. Incredibly wild place. It's a great experience, although it's so wild. There's whales like literally in that water right there in that picture every day. And there's a colony of sea lions that live right there right there at the bottom right corner. And you see them just doing amazing things in the waves and stuff literally every day. But you go inside, you've got a big galley, you've got a 6-burner stove. It's not Club Med, but it's definitely not rough in it either. I mean, you sleep in a bed. They're 1940s Coast Guard beds. I mean, they're not luxury, but it's compared to some places, they're not bad. So it's kind of cool. The camaraderie is great. There's always stuff to do. There's tons of things to do. The Ikkatsu Project goes up and does beach cleanups primarily, surveys and cleanups, but there's lighthouse chores to be done as well, and that's kind of fun. Everybody gets to play a part in one thing or other. That's Lucas, for those of you guys know Lucas from the South Sound chapter. He's gone up the last 3 years because he went up this year too. The Coast Guard comes to visit once in a while. The lighthouse is now privately owned by Lighthouse Foundation, but the landing pad is always Coast Guard property. So they will come and visit fairly often. This is pretty much the property that they own. Well, actually not really. If you see where it says the landing, and if you draw a line from that over to where it says Comma Cove, that would be that end of the island is what they own. So that's about 300 acres there. The landing is the beach that we use as it's our deposition study. Well, there's an aerial view of it. So that's looking down the lighthouse, and you're not seeing that stuff, but it's pretty awesome spot. Yeah, scale is such an amazing thing up there. The idea, you have no idea how many square miles you're looking at right now. Anyway, the landing is the beach that we've chosen as our deposition beach. So kind of one of the questions, now we know what's coming up on beaches. That's not really a big question. Nobody's really asking that question anymore, what's coming up, because we kind of know. One of the big questions though that remains is how fast is it coming up? How long does it take this much garbage to accumulate on a beach, whatever that much is? And the only way that you can do that is to clean a beach, or clean it what I like to say is 99%. You get to 99%, whatever you left there, hopefully it's something that, it's one of those ropes that's buried in the sand that you can't move, and at least it's there, you can document that it's there. So if you clean the beach as best you can, the next time you go back, anything that you clean up must have washed up in the intervening time. So that's the whole notion of deposition beaches. So landing is our deposition beach. There are other ones that we clean up there, definitely. No shortage. We've got 7 different survey beaches that we've done so far over the last couple of years. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to set up another deposition beach on the other side of the island this next year. So get that survey started so we can kind of see the difference between one side and the other. Might as well do that as long as we're there. Go ahead. Yeah, a lot of stuff from Asia, kind of like here. It was funny though, the reason this is in here, because it's like I was thinking 20 years ago when you went out and cleaned a beach, you might find something like this too. But it'd be like, oh, I wonder what it says. Oh man, we'll never know. That would be kind of, so I put it on Facebook, and literally like 30 seconds later, somebody had a translation for me. It's like, yeah, times have changed. So it's a fish bin from the largest fish market, the largest Tokyo fish market. So it's a bin that gets slid around full of fish while when you're buying your fish. That's what it is. So it's got the, anyway. So then styrofoam, same as here. Those big foam buoys are everywhere. You can go ahead. It's just beautiful place though. You can see the woods behind there running down. These ropes are still up there. We haven't untangled them yet. There's 3 really good ropes, and we're going to use them, but that's a rainy day job for sure, untangling that. So nobody's coming. There's a lot of other jobs to do up there. You know, they're way more fun than untangling those ropes. It hasn't come up yet. But yeah, this is those of you that know Natalie she was in the Northwest Straits chapter for years. She was on the EC up there, but she is in Maine now along with her boyfriend Bo. So you may or may not know who Natalie is, but she was up there in 2018. So a lot of what we found there should look pretty familiar to you. Inside the bags are just smaller things. So what happens with this stuff is the big buoys basically we put those back up and tie them around a tree up above the beach. Bears play with them during the winter time, so that's kind of fun for the bears. It's a win-win situation there. But the bags of stuff basically go inside of super sacks, and then the super sacks get removed. So far, they've been removed piece by piece from some of the beaches, either by dory or by skiff, and then taken back to Wrangell. Yeah, you get a pile like that at the end of the day, and that's just one part of one beach. So and this was the first year, though. There was a difference, I mean, in terms of what came back the next year. So this was who knows how many years. It had never been cleaned up before, so who knows how long it's been accumulating. Did water samples up there as well. Pretty interesting. I don't know how much you're talking about doing the Blue Water Task Force. Yeah, I don't know what the fecal coliform is up there. Probably not very high, but there's plastic literally in every sample. It's the same as everywhere else. Peter Hodem, who's also, I'm sure, I think is it Brian? Would know him. He's a professor at UPS and a good advisor for the Ikkatsu Project. When people ask him, you know, is plastic everywhere? He says, well, I don't know if it's everywhere, but so far everywhere we've looked, we found it. And so that's how I see it. And it's definitely true for up there too. It's a good time. It's as good a time as you can get digging around through logs for pieces of plastic. And you know, it's a good group of people. It's always a lot of fun. If anybody's interested in going, it will be happening again next year. I don't have dates yet. I don't have any info on it other than it'll be July. That's typically sometime latter part of July, typically is when we go for a couple weeks. So it'd be one week at a time. Yes, you can go up to the cupola. It's a pretty awesome spot. It's the best view in town. A lot of cruise ships come through there. A lot of fishing boats come through there. It's one of the 3 ways to get from the inside passage out into the Gulf of Alaska. So it gets a lot of traffic. That being said, I don't think anybody's taking cruises right now. I don't know about fishing or not, but so scheduled in 2020, we had another Tacoma shoreline cleanup that was scheduled for April. Because of the pandemic, we rescheduled it for September. Everything was looking great. And then we had to cancel because of smoke, because you couldn't do anything outside. So it is now being totally canceled until next year. So it'll be happening again in April of next year, which is better than doing, it would be better to do it in the, I like doing it in the spring of the year, typically just because you get more stuff. More people go out and clean beaches in the summertime than in the winter. So typically those beaches, if you go in November or September or something, they're not as dirty as they may be earlier in the year. So it's a good time to go out after the storms. I've got classroom courses. A classroom course, I can't see all of that sentence there because of the picture, but I can probably change that, can't I? There we go. Classroom course at Science and Math Institute here in Tacoma. That was going to be, or it started out being a guide to Point Defiance Park, and included in that was plastic sampling along the beaches and freshwater. And then I had a bunch of middle school microplastics classes set up, a bunch of workshops and presentations. Go ahead. And then 2020 happened, and everything you just saw on that screen back there got changed. So basically all the stuff that I just told you was going to happen didn't happen for one reason or another. Now, with that said, there have been a few things that have gone pretty well. One of the things is that I realized the fragility of, or well, one of the, I guess the question is, when's the next time that a teacher is going to invite me in to talk to their class for 4 days about plastics? It's going to be a while before that ever happens again. So if these courses are going to get out there, they're going to need to be taught by the teachers. And I do have some teachers who are pretty motivated and pretty into it. You just have to be able to give them the materials and give them the curriculum. So that's what I've been working on this year. And I've kind of made it so I can take the equipment they'll need, whether it's everything from the curriculum they'll need to teach with a couple videos included that talk the kids through things, along all the way up to, you know, petri dishes and the microscopes, whatever they need to teach that class for 4 days. So I've got that kind of set up. I can do it for one class now. My goal is to get probably get grant funding, or if I can get if I'll just do donations to get another, basically another set just like that, so I can have 2 of them running at any given time. 2-minute meetings, those were, it was one of those kind of things where it was when the lockdown was really going, and nobody saw anybody, basically. So I thought, well, it'd be kind of fun to just do 2-minute videos of whatever, of stuff. So they did really well, actually. A lot of people tuned in, a lot of people really liked them. So I got a lot of, I stopped doing them because I had to do a video for the Tacoma Shoreline Survey. Since we were going to make it a virtual one, I had to do a video explaining how that was going to be. So I kind of stopped the 2-minute meetings, but those will start up again here in October. And then because of the deposition work up in Alaska being pretty cool and getting a lot of good data from that, I'd like to do that down here. And I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but there's no reason we couldn't do a deposition study site in Puget Sound and one on the coast. It's not hard to set up. It's just a matter of doing it once, and then we could probably have a shorter period, which would be more valuable than every year, which is what we have up in Alaska, just because it's far away and hard to get to. But here, if we could do something every 3 months, that would be much more valuable data. So that's something to think about. And that'll be on the calendar for next year. Tacoma Shoreline Survey is happening again. It'll be in April. I'll get in touch with all the Surfrider personnel again. Lucas does a big part of that, so he's really involved in that, and Stina as well. So that's super helpful. South Cube cleanup is happening again. Like I said, probably July. I think what happened this year was only a small group of people went up. I canceled it in April because just we wouldn't have been. They had a 14-day quarantine. If you land in Alaska, you had 14 days before you could do anything. It's like, well, that's not going to work out. So they dropped that, and then Lucas was able to go up with a small group this year. He was just kind of went along. He did the deposition. He got them organized and did the deposition study this year. So we were able to keep that intact. So we have a good year of data. And then the river survey trips, I was talking about the Carbon, the White, and Puyallup. I did the Puyallup 2014. So that'll be 7 years ago. So I was going to do all of them again, and just kind of do a general assessment. In addition to collecting microplastics info, just do a general assessment of the rivers, because what happened with the release of the rubber pellets was pretty amazing, and it makes me wonder what else happened. So go ahead. So yeah, those are the kits I was talking about, getting all the stuff together, from the burners to from the heaters to the lab gear and everything. Go ahead. I kind of hit all this stuff. 2-minute meetings, they'll be coming again. Oh, think about 2-minute meetings. I'll throw it out to everybody here too. If you have any topics, if you have any things you'd like to know about Puget Sound or the Salish Sea or the coast, or stuff. Typically, it's the Salish Sea and the surrounding watershed. So land or sea. I like topics. Just if you, hey, this is an interesting thing. Otherwise, it's just stuff I think about at 3 a.m. So. Yeah, deposition studies. This is an actual beach here in Tacoma. And the white stuff, yeah, it's just amazing. The white stuff, there might be a shell in there somewhere, but most of it's styrofoam. And then the coast. And I'm not sure where that beach will be. I'm kind of leaning towards Norwegian Memorial right now, but if you have any suggestions there, I'll take those too. Tacoma Shoreline Survey, I can't wait to get out with actual people to actually do this again. That'll be pretty fun. And it's an amazing group of people again, people will come in from all over the place that you've never heard of before, you've never met before. It's a good time. So hopefully you come up at some point. Yep, there you go. That's a pretty good shot right there. Got rid of those 2 things. There's, that Riley's the blonde there. She's the Tacoma chapter. And then Eleanor in the middle there is from the Northwest Straits chapter. So it's the Three Rivers. Oh, the one thing I wanted to talk about that too is we've been talking about data all this time, and yet the film you just were talking about earlier was My Octopus Teacher. There's like not much data in that film. It's pretty much about the connection that this man and an octopus have. It's pretty awesome, actually. I did watch it not too long ago, and I think that the connection that people have to these places is something that's going to be what makes the difference. I don't think that data is really going to save anything. I think you need it because you got to be able to back up what you say. But what's really going to make a difference is how people connect to where they are. So that's going to be one of the big goals this year, is to take some of the science and make it more accessible, make it more sensible. So I'm always looking for ways to do that. So that's a big goal for this year. So I want to hear the stories of the people that live along those rivers. Just stop. I think that's probably the simplest. This is my Nancy Reagan impression. Just stop. So I just threw that one in there because it's my approach, my try at art. But go ahead. Sylvia Earle's probably one of my heroes. The single non-negotiable thing life requires is water. And that's, it's not money, it's water. So that's definitely something that has been brought home to me over and over again. It's something I try to leave everybody with at the end. And go ahead. Big thanks, in addition to Surfrider, not just for the moral support and everything. Surfrider did handle the insurance our first year up in Alaska. Hasn't done it since then, but our first year they did. Then Lush Cosmetics, my favorite cosmetics company. I can go on and on about Lush, but they have done just a ton of stuff in terms of financing small nonprofits like the Ikkatsu Project, and a lot of them. Puyallup Watershed Initiative, Bamford Foundation, University of Puget Sound, all for different reasons, but have been big supporters. So thanks. That's how you get a hold of me. Super easy to find. And that is my last slide for the show. So here. There you go. I turned my video back on.
Awesome. I want to go out to Alaska. I want Surfrider will pay me to do that. Probably not, but I definitely want that. Very cool.
Ken, how do you get to the lighthouse in Alaska?
Everything's run out of Wrangell, so you got to get yourself to Wrangell. But from there, it's a jet boat. So it's about a 3-hour trip on a jet boat. On a good day, it's about 3 hours out, 3 hours back. So, yeah.
Sounds good.
We're talking about being in Alaska next summer, so maybe we can make a connection. All
right. Like I said, I'm super easy to find. So yeah, the ikkatsuproject.org. This is where we'd get a beer.
We'll definitely open up the floor to questions. If you guys have any, throw them out there. Grill him. I have one.
I got a question.
Oh, you go first.
I got a question. Yeah, this is Glenn. Do you know what the long-term impacts of the microplastics are?
On what?
In the water and into, with regards to like sea life,
Yeah, well, that's ongoing research is still coming up with new information. But I mean, in the 30,000-foot view is that little things get eaten by little organisms, and then little organisms get eaten by bigger organisms, and then bioaccumulation being what it is, by the time you get to the bigger top of the apex kind of predators, they've got a lot of the little creatures and a lot of the plastic. It's not just the plastic. That's the other thing you got to think about. It's not just plastic particles, but plastics in seawater. Think of them as like magnets for bad stuff. So basically they attract pollutants. So plastic doesn't absorb anything, but it adsorbs pollutants. So pollutants stick to it. So as fish eat those things, the plastic may be fairly benign or at least neutral, but the pollutants will go into, so PCBs, PBDEs, things like that will go into them. When we eat the fish, they will go into us. It's just nothing really eats us much, so we don't know what happens with them, but we're the top of that food chain, or that apex predator. So yeah, it affects us. I mean, I was part of a mussel survey here in Puget Sound a few years ago, run through by a student at UPS in Tacoma, and I was just collecting. I didn't really do much other than that and hang around the lab once in a while. But he found plastic in 100% of the samples in Puget Sound. So it's a filter feeder. It's kind of what it does.
And they've done studies where they look at the effects of microplastics and the toxins that they can carry and absorb on like salmon smolts, and like have noticed like mortality. And then a lot of the chemicals used in plastics can be endocrine disruptors, and so they can have a lot of effects on both human and wildlife's like growth, development, sexual maturity, all of that. And so they're pretty nasty.
Yeah, the phthalates is what you're talking about, and that's other than being one of my favorite spelling bee words. It's also there's a lake. We were going to go to some lakes on an island in Alaska as part of that trip we did up in 2013. We couldn't go because of just the logistics wasn't going to happen. But there's a couple lakes there right at the entrance on these two islands, right at the entrance to Cook Inlet, and they're freshwater lakes on these islands. But because of the winds are so powerful, basically the wind blows plastic up through the line of woods and into the lakes. So over the years, plastics has just been accumulating in these lakes. And basically the phthalates counts are just off the charts. So the phthalates are the endocrine disruptors typically. And they leach out and there's nowhere for them to go. So those lakes are just super toxic.
And then another thing that I was reading about was just the contact. So one of the things that people don't think about is these plastics are drifting across, they're traveling the globe, and they're carrying with them microbes, viruses, bacteria that are potentially new to these new environments that this plastic is floating across, because it's able to do that better than most natural products ever would, and to a larger degree. And so I just recently read a study that links contact with plastics with coral disease. And so corals, they have like a 4% disease rate unless plastic just physically bumps against them. And then that disease rate goes up to almost 90%. So they're also a vector for transmitting microbes and pathogens. So they're all bad. There's nothing about them.
Yeah. It doesn't, oil and water don't mix. That's just it. Yeah.
Ken, a quick question. Have you looked at plastics in sediments in Puget Sound or any of the locations you've been to? And I ask because I've done a little bit of myofauna work, or stuff that lives between grains of sand, and we sample at Narrows Beach. And every sample we collect has basically filaments in it.
Yeah. A lot of filaments. Yes, I have done that. Typically, along the freshwater stuff, it's hard to do sediment samples because there's really not a lot of sandy beaches there. So it's a saltwater thing. Where in the Narrows do you go?
So we just have collected from Narrows Beach, the public access on the Gig Harbor side.
Oh, the other side. Okay, I got you. I live at Salmon Beach, so that's okay. So it's kind of the other way. But yeah, the great beach to do it out there. And then most of Point Defiance is a really good beach there's sediment to be sampled at. But other than that, there's just not a lot of good places. I've done it with middle schoolers from Jason Lee and from high schoolers from Sammy, and we found it in everything we found, basically just sieving it through until you find it. And then I built light tables, little small light tables, so basically you can dump the sample out and it's really easy to separate stuff out. And it's in everything.
Yeah, we actually find it in our oyster work as well. It sticks to our oyster shells we put out trying to sample baby oysters.
Wow. Yeah, it's pervasive for sure. Yeah. So you know Peter Hodem then?
I don't. I don't have a lot of interaction with UPS.
He's the biology. Yeah. All right. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Sold. Well, thank you, Ken, so much for coming and spending your evening all for attending and staring at a screen for another couple hours of your day. I know what that takes, and I really appreciate your willingness to do that, to learn about the cool stuff that people like Ken are doing in our communities and beyond. So
Thank you, Ken.
All right. Thanks, Christine.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.
and we
My
will
pleasure.
we'll add some we'll post some of his contact information on like social media channels. So if you do have some questions, you can reach out to him and maybe see if you can get to Alaska via Wrangell. And if you do, share pictures, please. Right on. All right. Well, thank you guys so much, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.